You could feel it from the sideline, the tension, the urgency, the message being sent without a single word. The Boston Celtics didn't just lose a preseason game to the Toronto Raptors, they got a glimpse of exactly who Joe Mazzulla really is as a coach. A coach who doesn't tolerate excuses, who sees every second as a test of accountability. And what happened in Toronto might have been the clearest sign yet of the kind of season the Celtics are about to have. Before we dive deep into what this means for Boston's locker room, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the hype button so you never miss the latest Celtics news that no one else is talking about. Because trust me, what's coming next might just redefine how we see this team's leadership. It started quietly. 3 minutes and 39 seconds left in the first quarter. A missed box out, a lost rebound, and then another. Toronto's Jonathan Mogbo bullied his way through for another chance. Joe Mazzulla watched just once. Then, with zero hesitation, he looked down his bench and sent 5 new players to the scorer's table. Not one, not two, the entire lineup. Seconds later, the starters were out. Every single one of them. That's not just a message, that's a statement. According to Anthony Simons, Joe was just being Joe. If you don't play to the standard, you come out. That's it. No speeches, no timeouts, just action. And it didn't stop there. In the second quarter, after a simple turnover, Simons was pulled again. No favorites, no exceptions. From rookies like Hugo Gonzalez to rotation guys like Baylor Shireman, everyone got a taste of Mazzulla's approach. This wasn't anger. This was discipline. Because Joe Mazzulla isn't chasing highlights, he's chasing habits. He's molding a culture where effort isn't optional and attention to detail decides who stays on the court. It's a philosophy built on something deeper, accountability through consequence. You either play with intensity, or you sit and watch someone else do it. But here's the part that changes everything. Mazzulla doesn't just bench players and move on. After pulling Chris Boucher for lack of energy, he later called him over, gave him a high five, and hyped him back up. When Gonzalez lost a rebounding battle and got yanked, he was right back in the game 2 minutes later, refocused, re-energized. Because Joe's not punishing, he's teaching. Every substitution is a lesson. Every look, every high five, every moment of silence between plays, it all builds trust. Boucher said to himself, it's a wake-up call. He knows what I can do, so when I slack, he lets me know. It makes me better. It makes us better. That's the paradox of Joe Mazzulla, the fire and the calm. The same coach who can bench an entire lineup without blinking can also sprint onto the floor to lift up a player who just dove for a loose ball. This isn't a traditional system. It's controlled chaos, built to expose weaknesses before they matter. And when asked about his quick subs, Mazzulla shrugged. It wasn't a short leash, he said. Just trying to push tempo, try different things. It's about getting guys in and forcing pace. That's all. But deep down, everyone watching knew it was more than that. It was a message to his entire roster. This is how we play in Boston now. And this is what makes the Celtics situation so fascinating. Because under the surface of this preseason loss, something much bigger was happening. You could see it in how the players reacted. No frustration, no eye-rolling, just quiet acceptance. Respect, because they know what's coming. This is Joe Mazzulla's Celtics, where every possession is an exam, and effort is the only grade that counts. And if that intensity holds through the regular season, the league might not be ready for what this group looks like when it fully clicks. The question now isn't whether Mazzulla's system works, it's whether his players can handle it. Because when the games start to really matter, and those same tough decisions are made in front of packed arenas instead of preseason crowds, who will rise to the challenge? Will the Celtics stars embrace the grind and trust the fire that forged them? Or will the pressure of perfection turn this high standard into a breaking point? One thing's for sure, Mazzulla's message has been sent. And the countdown to seeing how far it takes Boston starts now. Inside TD Garden, the scoreboard said victory. But behind that one-sided win, another story was unfolding, one that could shake up the Boston Celtics roster just days before the season begins. Boston crushed the short-handed Cleveland Cavaliers by 138-107, improving to 2 wins and 1 loss in the preseason. Yet, what stood out wasn't the score. It was who played, how they played, and who might be next to go. This was supposed to be a simple dress rehearsal, a warm-up before the real games start. But for some players, it might have been their final audition in green. The crowd came to see Anthony Simons make his home debut, and he delivered, hitting 5 of his first 6 three-pointers and leading the team with 18 points off the bench. But as Simons caught fire, another name quietly faded from Joe Mazzulla's rotation, and that silence spoke volumes. Before we get to the shock that's brewing inside the Celtics locker room, take a second to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the hype button. Because the next few days could define how this team looks when it takes the floor for opening night. The Celtics started strong, led by Payton Pritchard, who poured in 12 of Boston's first 16 points. He was electric, Derek White steady, and Jaylen Brown orchestrated with purpose, dishing 5 assists in the first half. But what stood out wasn't the fluidity of Boston's offense, it was Mazzulla's constant movement on the sideline. In the first 13 minutes, 12 different players saw the court. Every rotation, every substitution looked calculated. It wasn't just experimentation, it was evaluation. When Luka Garza checked in, he was pulled almost instantly for Xavier Tillman. No hesitation. The message was clear. Mazzulla knows what he wants, and more importantly, who fits it. The Celtics ended the first quarter up 33-17. The game itself was never in doubt. Cleveland was without Donovan Mitchell, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, Max Strus, Darius Garland, and several others. The Cavaliers lineup looked more like a summer league roster than a preseason contender. Yet, instead of relaxing, Boston treated it like a final exam. Every minute mattered. That's where things get interesting. Because while Anthony Simons, Pritchard, and White all made their case to stay in Mazzulla's tight, regular season rotation, others didn't see the same opportunity. Sam Hauser, the Celtics' longtime shooting specialist, barely made an impact. Despite starting, he took few shots and looked out of rhythm. It's been the same pattern throughout the preseason, steady shooting in practice, inconsistency in games. And with Simons proving he can provide instant offense and handle the ball, Boston might be preparing for a major decision. Could the Celtics actually be preparing to move on from one of their best pure shooters? It sounds unthinkable, but when you look closer, it starts to make sense. Hauser is entering a crucial stretch in his contract. His role has become less defined with the arrival of versatile scorers like Simons and the rise of rookies such as Baylor Shireman and Hugo Gonzalez. Mazzulla's style relies on multi-positional players who can defend, handle, and shoot, not just spot-up specialists. And right now, Hauser's skill set, while valuable, may no longer be essential. Boston's depth at the wing and guard positions is deeper than it's been in years. Derek White can run the offense. Pritchard can space the floor. Simons can explode for 20 off the bench. Even Boucher, who added crucial threes near the end of the second quarter, is showing he can stretch the floor from the forward spot. That's where the dilemma begins. Do the Celtics keep Hauser as a luxury piece, or do they move him to balance the roster and create space for the rotation Mazzulla truly trusts? Jaylen Brown's development as a playmaker only adds to the uncertainty. His 5 assists in the first half proved he's taking on more creation responsibility, a role that minimizes the need for catch-and-shoot specialists. When your stars are passing better, your shooters must bring more than shooting. They have to defend, rebound, and create pressure. Boston's 82-game schedule demands adaptability. And adaptability is exactly what Mazzulla is preaching. The pace, the substitutions, the energy, all signs that this coaching staff is preparing for a faster, more flexible identity. So, what happens to the players who can't keep up? That's where we return to the quiet story within the blowout. The Celtics' 138-107 win might be remembered not for the scoreboard, but for the subtle message Mazzulla sent with his rotations. Every player who touched the court was being tested. Every mistake was a data point. And while some passed that test with flying colors, others may have written their own exit tickets without even realizing it. As Boston closes the preseason this Wednesday at 7:30 in the evening against the Toronto Raptors, the stakes are higher than the score suggests. Roles will be finalized, minutes decided, and 1 or 2 tough calls may follow. The question now isn't whether Joe Mazzulla believes in his team, it's who he believes fits his vision. In Boston, every preseason decision matters. Every rotation, every substitution, every new starter reveals a little more about what Joe Mazzulla truly wants this Celtics team to become. And on Sunday night, inside TD Garden, Mazzulla may have just sent a message that could end with one player being pushed out of the rotation entirely. Boston dominated headlines after unveiling a surprise starting lineup against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and at the center of it all, quite literally, was Boucher. The 32-year-old veteran, signed on a veteran's minimum contract worth around $2 million, started at center in what looked like more than just an experiment. It looked like a declaration. While the Celtics had several options at the position, including Queta, Xavier Tillman, and Luka Garza, Mazzulla's decision to open with Boucher at the 5 spoke volumes about the direction he wants to take this team. A faster, smaller, more dynamic version of the Celtics, capable of switching everything on defense and spreading the floor on offense. But that decision also raised a different question. If Mazzulla is committed to 5 perimeter threats in the starting unit, including Sam Hauser and Payton Pritchard, is there really room for everyone when the real games begin? Or is this the beginning of a quiet phase-out that could see one of Boston's trusted shooters left out of the rotation altogether? Before we dive into that, take a second to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the hype button. Because what's happening right now in Boston could reshape the team's depth chart and force a major decision before opening night. Joe Mazzulla is not the kind of coach who makes random choices. Every lineup he tests, every substitution pattern, serves a purpose. And by choosing Boucher as the starting center, he showed that what he values most this season is energy, versatility, and defensive mobility. In his first 2 preseason games, Boucher averaged 15 points per game, shooting over 52% from the field in just 21 minutes per night. More importantly, he's been a relentless presence on the offensive glass and an active communicator on defense. Mazzulla called him a guy who takes no plays off, praising his leadership and effort. Those words matter, because behind that praise lies a clear coaching philosophy: no one is safe. Players like Boucher, who bring hustle and adaptability, are gaining ground in Mazzulla's system. Meanwhile, pure shooters like Sam Hauser, who depend heavily on offensive rhythm and spacing, could be the ones quietly losing their spots. Hauser, once seen as one of Boston's most valuable role players, is suddenly in a difficult position. His minutes have fluctuated throughout the preseason, and while his shot remains elite, the Celtics' new-look lineup demands more than shooting. It demands movement, defense, and the ability to play multiple positions. Mazzulla's lineup against Cleveland highlighted that shift. Starting with Derek White, Payton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, and Chris Boucher, the Celtics played with speed and constant perimeter motion. But as the game progressed, the team's rhythm came from its energy players, not its shooters. That detail shouldn't be ignored, because when a team starts reshaping its identity around pace and pressure, the specialists are often the first casualties. And right now, Sam Hauser may be standing on uncertain ground. Boston's frontcourt changes only add more tension to this situation. The Celtics lost Al Horford, Luke Kornet, and Kristaps Porzingis this offseason to trades and free agency, forcing them to rebuild their rotation with lower-cost options under the restrictive collective bargaining agreement. Chris Boucher and Luka Garza were both signed to veterans' minimum deals, expected to fight for minutes. But Boucher has quickly made his case, not just as a stopgap, but as a key piece. That emergence has ripple effects. If Boucher locks in the center spot, and players like Queta or Xavier Tillman fill backup roles, the Celtics' wing rotation will shrink. There simply won't be enough minutes for everyone. And that's where the speculation begins. Could Boston be preparing to cut ties with a pure shooter in favor of more defensive balance? Could the front office, led by Brad Stevens, already be evaluating trade or waiver options to trim the roster before final cuts? Mazzulla's lineup against Cleveland wasn't random. It was a test. And the results might set in motion one of the first real surprises of the Celtics season, a rotation shakeup that leaves a fan favorite on the outside looking in. The Celtics close their preseason schedule this Wednesday night, the 16th of October, at home against the Toronto Raptors. By then, we might already have our answer. The question isn't just whether Boucher will keep his starting job. It's whether his rise signals the end for someone else. If Boston truly commits to this new identity, fast, aggressive, and defensively versatile, will the team have the courage to let go of a trusted shooter to make room for players who fit Mazzulla's vision? Hit that like button, subscribe, and click the hype button right now, because the next move could redefine what kind of team the Boston Celtics really are heading into the season.